Good afternoon, players, coaches, loyal fans of both teams, our trusted referees and center court. Welcome to Moore Gymnasium for this afternoon Southwestern Athletic Conference matchup between the Alcorn State University Braves and your Bethune-Cookman University Wildcats. Starting lineup for the Braves. Outside hitter number 4, Caleb Williams. Outside hitter number 7, Caleb Whitlock. Center number 9, Ronald Ballou. Libero number 11, Emma Price. Middle blocker number 14, Jalila Hamby. Middle blocker number 28, Alyssa Williams. Head coach for the Braves, Mariah Prince. Libero number 21, Harmony Oswald. And now for your Bethune-Cookman University Wildcats. Middle blocker number 1, Leora Hightower. Center number 4, Alicia Colliner. Outside hitter number 7, Elizabeth Phillips. Middle blocker number 9, Ariel A.J. Simmons. Middle blocker number 12, Bilal Christ. Outside hitter number 14, Mia Delahuse. Libero number 18, Essence Bell. Head coach for the Wildcats, Brittany Williams. Assistant coach, James Newbridge.
Well, live from historic Moore Gymnasium on the campus of Bethune-Cookman University here in beautiful Daytona Beach, Florida. It's time to bring the curtain down on the home schedule for the 2023 Bethune-Cookman Volleyball Wildcats as they take on the Alcorn State Braves to close out SWAC Cluster number 2. Hello and a very warm welcome. My name is Michael Trevino. Happy to have your company for the final time here for volleyball-wise in Moore Gymnasium this year. Basketball right around the corner. Bryce Wojnowski, SID, joins me on the broadcast today. Bryce, it's been a good weekend for the Wildcats. They swept yesterday, beating Arkansas Pine Bluff and then Grambling State, looking to continue the momentum here this afternoon.
Yeah, Mike, absolutely. First of all, it's a pleasure to join you here this afternoon. I think coming into this weekend for the Wildcats, by no means could you take any game for granted, but you looked at Alcorn, UAPB, and Grambling State that they faced yesterday, and you said, if you take 2 of 3 of those games, you're in good shape. You looked at Alcorn, you looked at UAPB as very winnable games. Then you come out last night and you not only take a game from Grambling State, but you take a game handily, and something that maybe not a lot of people maybe didn't expect from the Wildcats early this season. And that almost heightens the importance of this game now versus Alcorn, a game that, you know, a team that ranks in the bottom of the SWAC in most offensive, most defensive categories. You have to take care of business, and with the playoff race really heating up, really coming down to the wire, you don't want to have to depend on other teams to give you help to get in.
This Alcorn team struggles offensively. They're barely hitting over even on the season. They hit negative in both of their games yesterday. Of course, got a tough draw facing Alabama State and FAMU out of the East. Here we go. Alcorn in the black. BCU in the gold, Essence Bell, the libero in maroon. First attack from Melina Spencer. Alcorn gets a chance to take the first point, and they do. Kayla Williams, the redshirt freshman right side from Midlothian, Texas. The team leader in blocks, Williams. 3-sport athlete in high school, volleyball, basketball, and track and field. And Alcorn's up 1-0. Not anymore, though. There's Mia Delahuse. She has been fantastic this weekend for BCU.
And she's been outstanding for the Wildcats all season, really providing something, an offensive spark that the team hadn't quite had in the last few years. And it's up to her and a handful of other Wildcats players to really take charge and pick up from what the defense is already providing for BCU.
To the outside, off the head of the BCU block. Bell does keep it alive. It's going to have to be a back row attack from Davis. And a nice block on the left-hand side gets BCU another point. Blocking definitely what this team does best. Tops in the SWAC at blocks per set, in the top half of all teams in Division I nationally as well. 2-1 Bethune-Cookman. Davis continues to serve. Quick set to the middle. Bell digs it out. Calendar behind her head, down the line, and good from Melina Spencer, who had a day yesterday but was very efficient, and she's been kind of struggling this season. It was good to see her really start flying yesterday.
Her and a handful of others, Elizabeth Phillips, AJ Simmons, really picking up on offense, what the Wildcats really need from them this season.
Far side over the hands. Did it get a touch? Yes, it did, so Alcorn State will get the point. This Alcorn State team led by Mariah Prince, the former Mississippi Valley State head coach, got a couple of her recruits to flip, including Jelia Hamby, the freshman who originally committed to the Devilettes when she was there. Nice tip over in the middle by Nyara Hightower.
And the Wildcats really need to take advantage of the size difference they have up front between Nyara Hightower, Katal Price, even Melina Spencer. A massive advantage in front of the net. It has to be the way the Wildcats win today. 3
players over 6 foot for the Wildcats on that front row. This is going to be a tough attack for Alcorn. It does get touched on the way through. Calendar plays far side. Simmons with the attack. Nice pass by the Alcorn libero, and then Alcorn tools the block and is a 1-point game, 4-3. Wildcats with 3 games left after this, all on the road. They'll go to Jackson State and Mississippi Valley State next week and then finish off at Florida A&M. And the way that the standings are going right now is that one goes off the ceiling. Bell keeps it alive, but it does find the floor. But as the way the standings are right now, the Wildcats a half game up on Grambling for the final playoff spot. You feel that maybe 2 of those have to go for the Wildcats to make the playoffs.
And like we said, Mike, this is a game and then some others down the stretch. You really want to be in control of your own destiny as much as possible. You don't want to have to rely on a Southern fall or something similar.
Jelia Hamby puts that service into the net. Wildcats maintain the lead 5-4.
You know, the Wildcats yesterday took advantage in the Grambling game in particular of a lot of opposing errors. It's something you have to really feast on. If they're giving you that opportunity, you have to take advantage. Yesterday we saw the Wildcats do just that.
Especially in set number 3. That game was that set was kind of close coming down the wire, and then 4 straight Grambling State errors allowed the Wildcats to pull away and really stake their claim on that game. That's a huge block by Spencer, and Price denying Ramona Pulu on the far side.
And Coach Brittany Williams has had her team atop their respective league, whether it be the SWAC or the MEAC, in blocking just about every year she's been here. It's such a priority for her, and especially in the SWAC, they have outright dominated the front of the net.
The SWAC, not a lot of height on a lot of these teams, as that one went completely the wrong way from the setter, Williams, and all Wardlaw could do was just kind of flap at it and send it into the net. Like Alcorn State, they have 1 player over 6 foot tall. That's Demaya Tate, who's not on the floor right now. Touched over and down for Hannah Solomon, the freshman out of San Antonio. She's their leader in kills with 94. As a contrast, the team leader in kills for Bethune-Cookman, Mia Delahuse, over 150 on the year, averaging almost 3 per set. Janine DeJesus in now. Feeds Phillips far side. Solomon plays it over tamely. It's going to be another chance for Phillips. Again denied by Carswell, the libero. A 3rd chance for Phillips on the possession. And this time Carswell barely does keep it alive. It's flipped over with the 3rd touch. Spencer now playing the opposite side and goes off speed and drops it down in front of Alyssa Williams.
You know, there's a handful of Wildcats out there for them right now. Jaylene, one of them, who really haven't been called on a lot this season, but due to some banged up players, Madison Coates, one of them, have really stepped up this weekend. Jaylene had over 30 sets, or assists rather, yesterday, and she's really come in and been strong, filling in.
Janine DeJesus, a little bit of a BCUathletics.com preview. She's going to get Wildcat of the Week for her performance yesterday. Far side, big block by Katal Price. Second time through, Essence Bell gets a piece of it. Big swing. Delahousse tips it off the fingers of Pulu and down.
Some really nice touch by Mia. She's just so strong in front of the net. She really brings a little bit of everything offensively, and to be able to kind of approach a shot like that and catch the defense off guard.
And I mentioned it a couple of times yesterday to Taylor. That's an ace for Elizabeth Phillips. She increases her team lead in aces this season, 16 on the year, now 17. But I was talking to Taylor yesterday, and the freshmen on this team have really pulled their weight, and more so this year. It's a great dig on the back by Phillips, not her usual position of defensive specialist. Delahousse keeps it alive. It's going to be Spencer to tap it over. Williams plays it. Solomon swings. Bell to Spencer. And off the diving Wardlaw and out. And the Wildcats, after being down 5-4, have now picked up an 11-5 lead.
The Wildcats yesterday in that Grambling State game were out-hit in every set. Grambling State led in kills every set, but their defense kept them alive, taking advantage of those errors. It's good to see some kills early in this one.
Long pass across, dive by De Jesus to keep it alive. Here's Delahousse, big swing up into the ceiling, and Alcorn didn't know where that was coming down. It actually bounced off one of the long ribbing of the air conditioning unit up there. And talk about this building in terms of volleyball. It's so unique in the really anywhere in the country that the ceiling is so low. There's a drop ceiling of all these beams and the air conditioning units, and if the ball goes up there and hits something, good luck tracking it.
Yeah, it's funny, Mike. When FAMU was here a couple of weekends ago for a standalone game, I was in here while they were doing their warm-ups. We were working with some volleyball replay cameras, and a handful of the FAMU girls were all talking, and one of them leans over and they start talking about more gym, and she goes, "Oh, it's your first time playing here, huh?" It's such an adventure. There's so much going on in the ceiling, so many different angles, so many different things a ball can hit off of. Whereas if you go somewhere, obviously Power 5 level, but even for myself personally, coming from the Edmonds Center down at DeLand where Stetson plays, it's so high. It's so predictable where the ball is going to go. If there's some hard contact, a hard dig on a really well-hit ball, there is untelling what happens. The only deal is both sides have to deal with it. So for the Wildcats, it's something I have no doubt they deal with a lot in practice. They kind of have an idea. We saw a couple of balls get wedged up in the ceiling yesterday, still aren't down. I can count 3 off the top of my head just from up here. It's an adventure. It makes for some interesting volleyball, maybe not the most fundamentally or aesthetically pleasing volleyball, but it's kind of like old school baseball where your different fields had different things, whether it's Fenway Park, Yankee Stadium. Welcome to more gym. Deal with the roof.
And you have to kind of tailor your play to the gym, right? And that's where you give BCU kind of an advantage playing here at home for this cluster, because you can't really go with those sky-high sets. Give your outside hitters a chance to lay under it and make good contact, because you got to play the ball more flat because you don't want to risk it going up into the ceiling. Alcorn State down 12-5 after taking a timeout, and that attack goes long. It's 13-5. There's one more thing on the ceiling. It's an interesting story. You talk about the Edmonds Center. I was up at UF a couple of weeks ago at a volleyball game at the O'Connell Center, and of course that ceiling it feels like the moon, how high that ceiling is. But there's a big swing from Solomon. Bell to Delahousse off the fingertips. Wardlaw keeps it alive. Set straight up and out for a Wildcat point. But the score clock in that gym hangs way down. It's about maybe a little bit above where the actual top of the roof here is. Not the ribbon, but the top of the roof. And there was a dig that went up and hit that. And the person I was sitting next to said, "I've never seen that before." And I said, "Well, let me tell you something."
It's funny too. I think with here a lot of the plays that clang off something on the ceiling, you kind of. It is what it is. You deal with those. I think the plays that may be more challenging for either side is the ones that kind of careen up through multiple beams.
And don't hit anything, and you
Exactly.
expect it to change, and then it doesn't. There's an ace for Elizabeth Phillips. She is a monster at the service line.
And she had an outstanding day yesterday. She led the Wildcats in kills in both games. She's been excellent.
Drops that one right down onto Solomon's wrists. And another block. Melina Spencer gets a piece of that Pulu touch shot.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff the Wildcats have feasted on in front of the net all season long. Anytime you give them soft contact, there's no shot they're letting that get over the middle blockers.
17-5. And just going down and talking to some of the players last night after the second game against Grambling, they were it's the first time all season I've kind of really seen them happy with themselves and how they played and how they approached the match. Here's Delahousse, big swing. Unfortunately, CatEye Price was down. Play was stopped as she gets up slowly.
The Wildcats team has been, obviously there's a handful of players. I mentioned Madison Coates earlier who've been a little banged up throughout the season, but they've mostly avoided anything big injury-wise, which is really fortunate this time of year. If they can get a handful of those players back, then they'll need all the strength they can get with the upcoming SWAC tournament.
Now, I wonder if they're going to make them replay this point because it was stopped in the middle.
We saw something similar in one of the earlier games in the cluster this morning. Did end up resulting in a replay.
They're still attending to CatEye Price in the middle. Keep quick statistical update early on in this set. 7 kills to 4, Bethune-Cookman. Alcorn State, as in their previous 2 contests in this cluster, hitting negative, more errors than kills. I think a big part of that is that BCU front line. Already 3 blocks in this set, way over their average of 2.1. And I think that last play from Delahousse is just kind of the equivalent of in basketball, just being taller than the other guy, just going up and just putting it down.
There's physical advantages all over the court for BCU in this one. That's just why you have to take care of business.
And she did it again. CatEye Price with a dunk.
Really did look like a dunk, didn't it?
Unfortunately, I remember the first game yesterday, CatEye did something similar. They called her for a lift because she kind of grabbed it and threw it down. That time just touched it over. Long wait for Pulu to play this one across. To Jesus. That set was a little bit awkward for Spencer to handle, but she does push it off of Williams and out.
You see a big run here for the Wildcats. We've seen a lot this season, I think, when the going gets really tight between 2 teams, the Wildcats have kind of struggled. When they're able to get on these big runs, they tend to do a good job of holding on.
15 straight points for the Wildcats, make it 16. Thank you to Brian Harvey doing stats down there for us today and all tournament long. Quick set to the middle. That ball somehow got across for Alcorn State. Left side tipped over Essence Bell. And play is stopped again as this time Delahousse is down. It looks like Delahousse and Bell ran into each other by that near pin. This is something you don't want in a game that you're pretty much cruising in. You don't want your heavy hitters to get injured.
Could have been an issue of bumping knees together. Delahousse's up, moving around on her own. Doesn't show any signs of needing a trainer or coming out of this game, which absolutely, if the Wildcats are going to make any run in the postseason or to the postseason this year, they can't do it without Delahousse.
And again, CatEye Price, she almost doesn't need a second blocker in the middle. She's so long, has a great wingspan, can cover logo to logo on the middle of the court.
It's a fun group to watch, the middle blockers for BCU. Coach Williams has them locked in. Obviously, we saw Aaliyah Dallas last year. Just such a great group ever since I've been here and since Coach B's been at the helm. And
I would not be surprised. Another block. This time Alcorn State keeps it in play. Dump over. Fingertips of Price keep it alive for BCU. Bell plays it over. Free possession for the Braves. Quick set to the middle. Over the fingertips. And it just lands on the line. And a 16-point swing is over as Alcorn State finally sides out.
There's another nice touch. Obviously some tough luck there for the Wildcats with where that fell. A nice touch from DeJesus. Again, I just really want to credit her, a senior. It's her second year here. She hasn't really been called on a lot this year, but she's been a steadying presence all weekend.
Native of Puerto Rico, 2 Puerto Rican players on this team. As that one is long. The other one, Alicia Callender. So the 2 Puerto Rican setters. And both transferred in from junior college as well. So a bit of a parallel there. And a lot of the times they're on the floor at the same time as BCU likes to run this 2-setter system. And we will get an Alcorn State timeout with the Wildcats up 22-6. Bethune-Cookman football continues Southwestern Athletic Conference play this Thursday, November 2nd, for a matchup with Mississippi Valley State University. The game will be broadcast live on ESPN. You can't watch, you can listen to the action live on youtube.com/CatEye Network or locally in Daytona Beach at 1380 WELE. And you were doing some prep for Mississippi Valley yesterday during this tournament. why should fans come out to this one Thursday night, school night? Give the fans a reason to show up.
Well, you have the ESPNU angle. They'll be covering the game, so it's always fun when it's taken up a notch production-wise. Of course, there's the very basic level of, oh, look, I could get on national TV, which is cool. I think there's an element of that to fans. And, you know, the season hasn't gone as according to plan maybe for the Wildcats in a lot of different ways, but that doesn't mean that it won't be an excellent product on the field competitively. I mean, you've seen it, I've seen it. I'm one who has been around the program for 3 years now, and the difference from last year to this year in the way they play, the way they stay disciplined, the coaching style, some of the guys on the team, the heart they play with, it really is night and day. And I don't say that any way to indict the old coaching staff or anything else, but there is absolutely a switch that's been flipped, and they especially defensively, they get after guys. There's some ball hawks on that team. The defensive line has some real stars on there. There's some guys that are out there to make plays, whether it's Amari Hill-Robinson, De'Aris Thomas has been outstanding. There are players to watch on that BCU line, and they really are a fun group. They have been all year.
They're holding teams to, 14 points against if you adjust for points off turnovers?
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
They play disciplined football. For the most part, they play smart football. The talent level isn't quite there yet, but Coach Woody obviously is still new in the game here at BCU, and he's getting his feet wet, and it's something that's going to come. I think this is not a group that you want to step away from. It's someone to pay attention to going forward.
Wildcats on the volleyball court trying to close out set number 1 up 21-6. We will replay that last point. Katel Price heads to the bench. And now she'll come back in. So good to see her up and moving around. Mia Delahousse also in. Those are the two Wildcats with injury scares here in this first set. You're just waiting for the serve of Emma Price, the sophomore out of Garland, Texas. Price also a runner, lettered in cross country and track in high school. And also a member of the National Art History Society. Not something you would really equate with an athlete.
Real Renaissance athletes we have here at BCU. Do a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm. Not sure what the holdup is. I think it's a substitution thing, checking with the book. And before I started covering volleyball last year, and really majority of this year, I didn't know how much went on at the scorers table in a volleyball match. It's a nice kill from Delahousse to give the Wildcats 2 points away from set number 1. But there's libero tracking, there's stat tracking, there's the main book, there's the scoreboard. It's hectic down there.
Not to mention now with the addition of replay, we've got 5 cameras set up in here that yours truly's been kind of tasked with tech support for all weekend, but it's something new to the SWAC. It's something new to the conference. Coaches are kind of still trying it out. You have some coaches, like for example at Florida A&M, that like to use it to slow the game down. There's others that use it for real replays. It's a lot of figuring stuff out. Of course, it's kind of slowing down the games at times right now, but just another element to that scorers table.
Pushed across, big swing, blocked by Hightower. And then Alcorn all out of sorts. And BCU unfortunately was in the net. Oh, no, so they did give the point to BCU. That was a bit of a wild one.
Yeah, a little bit of miscommunication over there from Alcorn. You had 3 players kind of converging on one ball.
That service is long. Phillips trying to get another ace, won't get it that time. 23-8. Here's Harmony Carswell, the freshman from Atlanta. This is another team like UAPB yesterday with not a lot of upperclassmen, only 1 senior on this Alcorn side. Touched over the block, but out of play, and the Wildcats move to set point. BCU hitting over 500 in this first set. They have just controlled the game from basically, not the word go, because Alcorn was competitive there maybe in the first 10 to 15 points, but after that 16-point run, it's just been all BCU.
That hitting percentage will be a high for a set this weekend for BCU. Hit 400 yesterday against Grambling.
Tight to the pin on the far side. Delahousse puts it up for Collender. Spencer trying to close out set number 1 with a touch shot. Pulu keeps it alive. Wardlaw with a swing. Essence Bell to Mia Delahousse and Williams parries. Wardlaw off the outstretched arms of Callender. And Hightower, tipped it into the block of Jayla Hamby.
Like we mentioned earlier, it's when the Wildcats get on these big runs, and as we see them look to close out the first set here, it's something that when they've been able to do that, get runs of 5, 6, up to 10 points. They do a good job of closing from there. It's when there's this really tight back-and-forth contest that I think a lot of these Wildcats are still kind of learning to win.
Solomon serves, calendar sets. Delahousse trying to close the show, and she does down the pipe to the right of Price. And I think you cursed it a little bit because they do end up with 478 as their hitting percentage for set number 1. Either way, it goes to the maroon and gold 25-9. We'll take a step back and be right back for set number 2. This is BCU Volleyball on the CatEye Network. Back in Moore Gymnasium for set number 2 here between the Alcorn State Braves and the BCU Wildcats. Wildcats took set number 1, 25-9, and Mia Delahousse was all over everywhere in set number 1. 6 kills, hit 600, no errors on 10 attacks. Nobody else for the Wildcats had more than 3. Spencer had 3, Price had 1, Simmons had 1, and Hightower had 1. But Mia Delahousse, just a freshman. How hard is it in any sport as a freshman stepping up to the college level and be able to dominate like she has this weekend?
Absolutely. It's a credit to her talent. I also think it's a credit to kind of Coach B's style as a head coach. You know, she to us and everybody who does our thing at the scorer's table and in the office day to day, she's great to work with, but when it's time to get down to business on the court at practice, she takes care of it. She's stern with her roster, and she puts them in a great chance to succeed.
And also some big recruiting news for volleyball recently.
Yeah, they've got a handful of big-time commits, one of which is actually the daughter of former NFL player Greg Jennings, committed a handful of weeks ago. Really exciting for Coach Britt.
And for program visibility, there's Niara Hightower dumping it down low, 1-0 Wildcats. And of course, Coach Williams has had kind of a tough week. The team's been picking her up with some big performances this weekend. Alcorn goes near pin. Price hits it. Dug out by Phillips. Back to Phillips. And hit way long. And that's one thing we saw a lot early in the season, and the Wildcats have kind of cleaned it up down the stretch, is just swinging wildly and sending those things long. There's a lot more touch shots. Sometimes, Taylor thought yesterday we were over-reliant on the touch shot. Tight to the net, calendar to the middle. Dumped down by Hightower. Near side through the arms. Back to Phillips. That time, Callender took a swing at it. Off the block and through the hands of Simmons from Hannah Solomon. Easily recognized by that pink streak in her hair. Just the freshman from San Antonio leading this Alcorn State team in kills. One of the players that originally committed to Mississippi Valley, and Coach Prince before Prince took the job at Alcorn and then brought her commits with her.
We've seen a lot of head volleyball coaches in the SWAC kind of bounce around in recent years. Of course, we had the incident with Grambling State a year or so ago where coach essentially tried to flip her entire roster from another SWAC school, and it was kind of frowned upon by the NCAA community as a whole. Ended up moving on from her. There's a lot in the SWAC of kind of this bouncing around sport to sport, whether it's staff, coaches, all of it.
Overpass denied by Price. Price taps it over. Nice save by Collender on the back row. Another overpass, and that'll be a 4-touch for BCU and a first lead of the match for Alcorn State. The Wildcats slipped a little bit yesterday in the second set versus Arkansas Pine Bluff. Won the first set pretty handily and then fell behind in the second set. Made a run late but could not catch up. Lost 25-21. It's the only set they dropped yesterday. Off the fingertips and down as the Wildcats tie this one up through Phillips.
Yeah, you know, you talk about that kind of second set lull. That's kind of been the MO of the Wildcats for the past 2 seasons, really. They start really strong. They play teams competitive or go out and win first sets. Then they kind of drift in the middle sets, and a lot of times, especially against a really good team like Florida A&M or others, maybe Alabama State this year, they come on strong again late, but it's too little too late.
Quick to the middle, fingertips of Price, who keeps it alive to DeJesus. Bell has to play this over calmly. Free possession for the Braves. Setter tried to dump it over. DeJesus keeps that alive at the net, and then Davis plays over and gets the kill. How about that for only her second kill of the season, Riley Davis?
And again, that ball from DeJesus was essentially under the net when she grabbed it with a fist to kind of pump it back into play for the Wildcats. Outstanding to keep that ball alive.
Now Jan Lean will serve. She had that big serving run in set 3 against Pine Bluff that really turned the match in BCU's favor. She'll set it here for Spencer, who just plays it long.
Well, Jan Lean had 4 service aces yesterday. It's a season high for her.
Only had 4 coming into the weekend. Big middle hit by K-Tall Price. Kept alive back row by Wardlaw. Spencer taps it out of play. And credit to Alcorn State. And after being beaten up in set number 1, it would be easy to fold. They are staying in it here in set number 2 and have taken a lead on multiple occasions. This Alcorn State team picked to finish 11th in the SWAC preseason rankings, only ahead of Mississippi Valley State. They're only ahead of Mississippi Valley State in the current standings. That attack goes wide 4-4, and the Wildcats tie it up.
I always give credit to places like Alcorn State or Mississippi Valley. Of course, our assistant SID, Brian Harvey, comes back to Bethune-Cookman after a year at Alcorn, and you really see how much of a struggle it is to recruit at places like that, whether it's location, amenities, everything else. It's a credit to any coach who can put together a roster that plays hard and well coached.
Is there a touch on the way through? No, so Alcorn State will get the point on the attack error. And speaking about Alcorn State, they are poised to win the West in football this year and head to the SWAC championship game. Of course, Florida A&M secured the East. They can't be caught with a win this week.
Fred McNair has been an outstanding coach down there.
There were some rumblings before the season that if it didn't go well, McNair might have gotten the axe, but he has really stepped it up, and as have the rest of the Braves. That's a great swing by Spencer. Ties the set up at 6. Taking a look at the women's volleyball standings in the SWAC. Bethune-Cookman 5-7, Texas Southern 6-6, Southern 4-6. They've still got games in hand. Grambling State, who after 3 losses this weekend, has slipped to 5-8. But again, only the top 8 make the playoffs.
SWAC volleyball, especially this year with Florida A&M kind of stumbling a little bit from their just dominance in years past. It's so tight, especially with those last few playoff spots.
And that's why I've said that the Wildcats maybe need to steal one against Jackson State or FAMU in the last couple of matches to really secure their spot, because you cannot guarantee that people around you, Southern might drop some matches, Grambling State might drop some matches like Grambling State. They've got Alcorn and Pine Bluff as 2 of their last 4 games, so, you know, you can't expect them to maybe drop one of those. You have to go out and do your thing. Here's Alicia Callender serving now. Nice first touch. Momentum goes left side, and the ball hits the pin, so the Wildcats will take the point. We saw that a lot in the last match between FAMU and Grambling State. Balls were hitting the pin left, right, and center.
And of course, now we have the replay camera on the net for a lot of close calls up there. We've seen that utilized a handful of times this weekend.
Callender floats it short. Price back left. No correction. Yeah, Price back left. There's a Price on both teams, so apologies if I get that wrong. Big swing from Wardlaw down the line. And once again, it's tied at 8.
You get back to like the SWAC schedule conversation, Mike. Obviously, a tough handful of games, Jackson State and Florida A&M left on the schedule for the Wildcats. We saw that big run at the end of SWAC play for them last year. You really want to go into the playoffs with some momentum.
That is in the corner. You cannot hit that one better than Elizabeth Phillips just did. Cross your body, hammered it, and found that corner right on the line. And of course, the lines here at Moore Gym, gold on the wood, a little bit hard to see. Price taps it into the block, and it's a Hightower rejection. She currently leads the SWAC in blocks solo.
You know, she's been one who's kind of waited for our opportunity here with the Wildcats, with Aaliyah Dallas kind of anchoring that spot for so many years. Came into the day with 90 blocks on the season. Aaliyah Dallas had just over 100. Hopefully we can see Niara cross triple digits before the season's over.
I'm sure we will. Big run for Phillips. Spiked it off the libero. Now Spencer gets a chance. Correction, Simmons, and tools that one off of Hamby. And the Wildcats, for the first time in this set, have some separation, up 11-8. Riley Davis, the freshman, serving. Quick to the middle, over the fingertips of Hightower. Back set, Simmons. Alcorn State plays this one just inside the pin. Callender keeps it alive. Bell, too. What a save from Callender and Bell, but they did, the referee in the back said it hit the ground.
It's a tough break, but it's always so great to see that effort from the Wildcats defensively. There's been times this season that they've kind of struggled with first touches or let some balls kind of squeak through a handful of defenders. But putting that effort in, you know, is half the battle.
Service long from Wardlaw. And especially Essence Bell, who was hurt for the first part. It's got hurt in the first match of the year, all the way back against Marshall. It's been a couple weeks on the DL. And that was when Riley Davis had to grow up a little bit, because she moved in as the starting libero as just a freshman. Simmons powers that one through, 13-9.
Yeah, in essence, has really been outstanding in her time here back. Countless 20-plus dig games. Been huge defensively.
Currently second in the SWAC in digs per set. Only behind FAMU's Brooke Hudson, who had another great weekend here this last 2 days. Simmons off the fingertips. Clawed over by Wardlaw. Off the block. Wildcats keep it alive through Price. Dumped over. Williams slides to keep it down. And another solo block for K-Tall Price.
That K-Tall Price, Niara Hightower tandem has just been unbelievable all season for BCU. A big part of how much success they're able to have in front of the net every single night.
Hightower will now serve, and what surprised me a lot is as Hightower plays a fair bit in the back row as well, Alcorn chooses to keep that alive when maybe that was going to go long. The Braves do get it over. Late touch. Hit by the elbow of Hamby over the net. Wildcats with a chance here, up into the ribbing off the dig and down.
The rare ball that sails all the way through every beam, everything in the ceiling, right off the top of the roof and straight back down. Alcorn barely had any time to react before it was back down on the court.
Yeah, and again, Alcorn playing out-of-system, last-ditch volleyball just to try and keep some of these rallies alive. This time they'll go in system, back set for Price. Davis with the first contact. That setup was a little bit behind Phillips, but she does play it over at the near pin off the block and out. Price couldn't direct that one towards the other side of the net. Jalea Hamby will serve now, the freshman from Jeffersonville, Indiana. Originally signed with Mississippi Valley before flipping to Alcorn. Also had an offer from Calumet College. It's Division II. Another big swing from Elizabeth Phillips grabs the point. So set one, it was all Mia Delahousse. Set two, they're just feeding number 7.
And it's a combination between the athleticism and the lack of size for Alcorn. There's balls like that, it's just impossible for them to catch up with who they have on the court.
Wildcats have cooled off a little bit, hit 500 in set number 1, only hitting 286 here in the second set. Another interesting stat in that first set for BCU, they had 0 attack errors on 24 total swings.
Disciplined volleyball.
DeJesus with the serve. Alcorn really likes that quick set to the middle. Wildcats in position to read it. Braves get the block. Carswell plays this one. And a swing from Solomon goes long down the pipe. Credit to Alcorn State, though, for only having one player over 6 foot tall. They are getting up and putting hands on some of these BCU swings, as head coach Mariah Price will challenge and see if it got a touch on the way through. The nation's largest HBCU football game is back on November 18th. Come catch the Wildcats as they take on rival Florida A&M Rattlers in the 43rd Florida Blue Florida Classic at Camping World Stadium in Orlando. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. And there's 2 more games at Daytona Stadium this season. On November 2nd and November 11th, as BCU hosts Mississippi Valley State this week and Alabama A&M next week. Tickets are still available at the BCU box office or at Ticketmaster.com. Let's talk about basketball, Bryce, because it's right around the corner. It's 7 days away from first tip for both the men and the women on the 10th. Women are down at UCF, and the men are up in Minnesota. A couple of long road trips early on in the season for men's basketball, but it's always that way. And first off, this women's team overperformed last season by a lot of metrics, made the playoffs, were maybe one game away from making a deep run in those SWAC playoffs, but, you know, what's past is past, have reloaded. Player of the Year, Chanel Wilson coming back, a lot of the players from last year coming back. Coach Creighton really has a chance to do something special with this year's team.
Absolutely, and it really is a pivotal year for both programs. Year 3, you're really starting to say, especially with the whole reset that both of these programs went through, to finally say, I've got my players in the building, this is my team, my system is in place. And when you have a leader like Chanel Wilson on your team for Janelle Creighton, it makes her job so much easier. To have her back this season, I wouldn't be stunned if she is your SWAC Player of the Year at season end. She very well likely may lead the SWAC in scoring. She is unbelievable. She is must-see TV on the court. If you want to tune into CatEye Network, come out here, more Jim. She is a player you do not want to miss. Make sure you are giving BCU women's basketball their love this season because they deserve it. They have a great core. I think last year what we really saw is the pieces on this women's team fit together really well. They have an excellent point guard, Deshante Edwards. Obviously, Chanel carries a lot of the attention defensively and can get her own shot when needed. Nia Jordan is great in the middle. She does a great job of both scoring, distributing, spacing the floor. They have pieces that really fit. It's not just a group of athletes. There's some great camaraderie between the team. They deserve all the love that they're getting. Make sure you come out and support. Come down to UCF next week. It should be a great game. It's a great little facility. It should be a fun one.
And, of course, year 3 of Kayla Clark, the junior from Miami, who has had to punch above her weight in a conference that really puts a lot of emphasis on size and front court play. And it's 6'3". This year, I think in year 3, for her under Coach Creighton, I think she might be in the conversation for maybe some first or second team all-conference mentions toward the end of the year. It is top to bottom on this women's team, just stars all around. All right, back to volleyball. The Wildcats did get that last point after the challenge. It is 17-10 here in set number 2. Wildcats already up 1-0 after taking the first set 25-9. Janlene DeJesus still back to serve here for BCU. DeJesus, the transfer from Eastern Florida State College. Perfect first pass, back row attack. Price says no. And it's a double contact for Alcorn State to give the Wildcats the point.
Yeah, from up here, that ball almost looked like it just kind of hit the top of the net, didn't quite get to CatEye, but that's a credit to her presence up front and just her ability to kind of make every shot difficult. The ball sails into the net.
Here goes Janlene DeJesus again. That's another great serve up into the arms of Solomon. Solomon with a big swing. Davis, DeJesus saves it into her own bench, and it's cleared over the net. Alcorn with a chance at the pin. It hits the pin, and BCU gets the point. Janlene DeJesus, take a bow.
She's really, at this point, vying for, opportunities later in the season, even as players start to get back. That's one where it was a late commit to that ball coming towards the BCU bench. Didn't want to fall into the bench, risk injury, but she commits late, puts the ball back in play, and gives the Wildcats a chance for the point.
She is really putting it on Solomon to make that first contact on these serves, and Solomon has been putting Alcorn in tough positions. Here's a big swing from Spencer. Solomon against Spencer, keeps it alive, over, but out. Spencer is one of those players that once she gets going, if she finds her range with a big swing off the right-hand side, she can be really devastating. Defensively, not the best player. She doesn't have a lot of side-to-side movement, can be exploited in situations like that. A nice dig by Phillips. Phillips will get the return pass. Price sets Solomon. Nice block by Phillips. Diving stop by Bell. DeJesus sets Spencer, was a bit behind her head. She does get it over. Back row attack, Wardlaw. All the way across. Standing play by Spencer. Solomon off the fingertips. Bell races in to keep it alive. DeJesus behind her head. Tapped over and down. Great dig by Carswell as the rally continues. And that time, Alcorn State wins. That's the rally of the match right there.
Absolutely. It's credit to them for great communication, really on both sides. You saw Essence Bell kind of stumbled there and made it difficult for the Wildcats to play that one back over the net. But both teams talking, knowing where everybody is, able to make the play.
Emma Price serves long. And a couple of times when Janlene DeJesus has been at the service line, I've expected Alcorn to try and let some of these go, especially when she's attacking that back right corner. But every time they played it, and the Wildcats have, for the majority, punished it. Let's see if Elizabeth Phillips also does that same approach. No, she'll play it short and get the ace.
How deadly has the service been for the Wildcats today?
It's been, and all weekend long.
Not something you can really bank on when you play against some of those top teams in the SWAC. Obviously, we know FAMU defensively is outstanding.
Good first pass onto the fingertips of Price, and Solomon puts it down. We've seen Alcorn now 21-13 after a Wildcat run, but we've seen Alcorn, when they are in system, can be very effective setting those pins for Solomon and Wardlaw to hit. Wardlaw, the only senior on this team, a 4-year player at Alcorn. And that was a poor set by DeJesus. Didn't give Price any room to work.
Tried to short arm it over the net. Didn't quite have enough space.
That's Wardlaw, the only 4-year player on this Alcorn team. Almost 400 career kills for her. Here's Spencer into the block. Keeps it alive. We see Jasmine Moore on the floor right now for Bethune-Cookman as that attack goes outside the pin. Jasmine Moore, a player who played a big part in last year's team and their run to the SWAC semifinals, but has kind of been usurped this year by some of this new freshman talent. Elizabeth Phillips, obviously the junior, but Mia Delahousse kind of came in at her position and has asserted herself. So it's good to see Jasmine get some time on the floor.
Yeah, former All-SWAC second teamer a couple years ago.
She's going to get another kill. 2 straight for Moore.
She was a real leader on the team. Her and Aaliyah Dallas, I think, really were 2 big-time leadership pieces. She still is very much a voice in the locker room, and she really keeps everybody accountable. It's good to see her have some success on the court.
Alcorn State takes a timeout down 23-14 in set number 2. This was close for a long time, but the Wildcats kind of run away with it in the last 5 minutes or so. But a couple of players playing their final games at Moore Gymnasium today. Melina Spencer, Jasmine Moore, Essence Bell, Janlene DeJesus. And it's not senior day, quote unquote, but it kind of is some of that bittersweetness for those players who are going to leave us after this game.
Yeah, no doubt. We celebrated senior day for the Florida A&M game a couple weeks back, just because of all the hustle and bustle of this cluster, with it being a Monday afternoon game. You want to give the seniors the recognition they deserve in front of as big a crowd as possible, with students in class and people at work. You wanted to make sure you gave everybody a chance to come out and really honor them. But you're absolutely right. There's always that bittersweet that comes with playing your final game here. But the issue is you can't let it linger for too long, because you've got 3 big-time SWAC games coming up the rest of the way, and hopefully a tournament berth to worry about. So their stories are far from written here. I mean, you see Jaylene, who hasn't gotten a ton of playing time this year, really kind of giving it her all in this last game. There's plenty of season left to make your mark on the program.
Yeah, and talking about crowd, like yesterday, crowd was fantastic. Even for a Sunday, you know, middle of the day, early morning, even at 9 a.m. and the Wildcats were playing Pine Bluff, there were still a couple hundred people in here cheering on the Wildcats. Of course, the men's basketball team always shows up to support this volleyball team, and saw a couple of football players out here. So Wildcats supporting Wildcats, something that the administration tries to press.
Of course, credit to the SWAC, too. There's some great teams that travel very well across sports. Volleyball's one. We saw a big crowd for Alabama State, a lot of FAMU, obviously, with the short drive. But it's good to see good fan bases like that show the team the respect they deserve.
Hitting error for Alcorn State means that it's set point. Someone's in the net. It's BCU. Oh, no, it's Alcorn. And BCU takes set number 2. Not how you'd want the set to end, but they will take it. Wildcats up 2-0. We'll go to set 3 when we come back. This is BCU Volleyball on the CatEye Network. Set number 3 on the way here from Moore Gymnasium. The potential to be the final set of volleyball played in this gym in 2023. Wildcats up 2-0 against the Alcorn State Braves. Michael Drillo, Bryce Wojnowski in the broadcast booth. Thank you for joining us on this Monday afternoon. And the viewership on our on the CatEye Network for these SWAC cluster games has been really good. We appreciate everybody tuning in from wherever they may be. Even the games that didn't have commentary yesterday, 50, 60, 70 people at one point were tuning in, so we really appreciate it. Start set number 3. Wildcats will attack right to left in the gold, Alcorn State in the black. We were talking during the break about the fact that only 8 teams out of 12 make it to the conference tournament, and how that differs from some conferences where it's only for seeding. I think the A-Sun does it that way, where everybody gets in and it's only seeding and buys and all that.
It's important to provide that benefit for the 1 to 2-ish seeds, whether that be a first-round bye. If you're going to let everybody in, there has to be some kind of incentive to place higher other than just being a higher seed, getting a home field advantage, what have you.
Here's Pulu! Rejected by Hightower.
She's just such a leader on this team, such a great personality. She's really involved on the media side of things, somebody who wants to get into kind of telling the story of the volleyball team behind the scenes. So to see her have that success is so exciting.
And we've seen Victoria Samedi, who played last year, is now running social media for the Wildcats. That's another block for Hightower, 2 in a row.
Again, kind of that Aaliyah Dallas formula. She's had some great games this year where she's had 8 or more blocks. She really just has been unbelievable and really helped to kind of continue that program tradition of just being great at the net.
What about, Samedi and a couple of other players for the Maroon and Gold across all sports? Is that a 3rd block in a row? Oh, it is. 3 straight for numero uno to start the 3rd set.
And it's great, too, to see this Wildcats team kind of playing with some swagger, something we really haven't seen them a lot this season because they haven't been able to string together consecutive wins. They've been down. But to see them having fun and really, coming together as a team is so important late in the year.
Nyara almost got another one. This time it's jumped over and down, and a kill for Callender. Now Hightower's like, I know you want to talk about something else, but talk about me. Talk about
when
I
you're
got 3 blocks in a row.
in front like she has, what else can you say?
Yeah, but the point I was going to bring up is we see it in all sports. Kids stick around and become graduate assistants on the coaching side. They do student work on the administration side or the content side. A lot of players, as Alcorn State gets that point as the attack goes into the pin, a lot of players feel that they want to stick around and contribute to this program.
It's a credit to the athletic department as a whole. The love that players find for this university, for Daytona Beach, for their fellow players, their coaching staffs, their support staff, to want to stick around and be a part of something. It's a credit to every bit of the operation.
We got freshman Sydney Poston in as Coach Williams has given some of the lower players on the bench a chance to play here in this 3rd set. Sydney Poston was another one of those players early on who kind of platooned for Essence Bell when she went down, her and Riley Davis. Oh, come on. 4 blocks in the first 6 points of set number 3.
Well, Mike, I would provide some commentary, but I've run out of things to say about Nyara Hightower at this point.
Up to 6 blocks on the game, Nyara Hightower right now. And then now the Braves are just trying to avoid her. They're trying to go around. They're trying to tap it over. They're not committing to swinging for fear that it will just be sent right back in their faces. That one off the hands of the libero, and it eventually hit the referee after ricocheting down off the ceiling. 7-1 Bethune-Cookman. You can tell the Wildcats want to get out of here.
Absolutely. It's been a great weekend as we see Alcorn State call a timeout here. It's been a great weekend for them. They deserve a break, I think, staff, everybody, from what we've all gone through this weekend. But it's good to kind of leave this weekend in the past and move on with just a great mentality and some great energy moving forward. Nike
is the official outfitter of the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats. Gear up on the newest BCU Nike gear at nike.com/Bethune-Cookman Wildcats. You were talking about the tough week for us here, especially on the sports media side. And let's peel back the curtain a little bit. So we left on Friday morning for Louisiana, spent Friday night in Louisiana. Saturday had the Grambling State game. That game took way longer than we expected. It was almost 4 hours. Then we had to drive an hour back to the airport. Got in at 1 a.m. On Sunday night, or on Sunday morning. Then had to be up here at 8 a.m. for the first game of this SWAC cluster. So it has been a long weekend for us in the BCU Sports Media Department.
Yeah, with no signs of letting up with a Thursday night football game coming up this week. I kind of feel like Kirk Herbstreit every week going off on the broadcast about all the different places he flies to for college game day, for calling a college game, for Thursday night football. Just run a little ragged, but we power through it. We power through today. We get through it, take a couple naps, and get ready to do it all again next weekend.
And then you think, oh, but volleyball's over. There's no more hope. Well, then basketball starts up in 7 days, and we got that to worry about too. So it never stops. That's how we like it. 7-1 Bethune-Cookman. Solomon has to adjust midair, does get that one over. Off the fingertips. Overpass off the dig. And Solomon couldn't save it off the net. I'll tell you what, Harmony Carswell, for just being a freshman, is flying all over the floor for this Alcorn team. Leads the team in digs with 104. And had a couple of spectacular saves in the first couple of sets here. Price, big swing. Fought off by Bell, and then off the block and down. That's Chloe Conover. Another freshman who hasn't really played a lot this season, but figures to be in the long-term plans for this Bethune-Cookman team at outside hitter.
That was as violent a kill as you've seen today.
Touched over. Nice dive by Bell. It goes over at the far pin, and then the attack is long, and BCU is up 10-1. But a couple of the players that, even if they are freshmen, haven't seen a lot of play this year, you know, we talk about players like Chloe Conover, like Alyssa King, the transfer from UTEP, you know, like maybe at times Madison Coates, which she's been in and out with injury, at times Mecca Freeman as well, just a sophomore. You know, these are players whose time is going to come next year, and especially I think Conover is going to be maybe the future at outside hitter. Her and Mia Delahousse at the pins maybe is the direction this team is going.
And Yara Hightower is a perfect example of kind of what that's been like. She sat back for 2 years kind of playing second fiddle to some of the bigger middle blockers, and she's been unbelievable as soon as her name was called.
That's just as you say it. She touches another one back over the net. Price big swing. Bell meets it. Swung in kind by Phillips, back over the net. Phillips meets it with a joust. Pushed over by Callender. Solomon. It's a nice touch shot by Solomon over the block of Hightower. It's tough when you've got someone who's 6'2" and probably has about an 8-foot reach. Naira Hightower to try and tip it over her.
And it's so much more than just making the play in front of the net. That very presence in front of the net is so daunting, especially for an undersized team like Alcorn to have to worry about that.
And you've seen the Braves have to go to those touch shots, have to try and hit around the wall instead of trying to go through it, because they know if they attack it straight on, they're just going to get rejected. 11-2 BCU as the Wildcats immediately take side out. Hightower back at the service line. Hightower, the former district blocker of the year at Hershey High School in Wichita Falls, Texas. And as you said, has kind of waited behind Aaliyah Dallas for 2 years, and now it's her team, it's her net. Well, right now it's Jayla Hamby's net. Nice block for Alcorn. To the middle, and that set was a bit high for Price, but she made it work. And you can tell Solomon, who was in the back row that time, was expecting Katel Price to swing that hard. Couldn't catch up to the slow shot in the middle. Wildcats up by 9 here in this third set. Jenlene DeJesus back at the service line. 4 aces yesterday. How about a 5th?
Just an all-around excellent afternoon for her at the service spot, setting the ball up for her teammates, making some outstanding defensive plays to keep plays alive. She's really been kind of a catalyst for a lot of big runs for BCU today.
Another great serve, forces a dive out of Carswell, blocked to the net by Price, and twice for number 12. And then the third one had to go over, but it's played into the net by Carswell. I mean, it's not going to go into the stat sheet, but give that point to Katel Price.
You know, I want to say from watching Alcorn and a handful of games this weekend, you know, kind of an undermanned, outclassed teams in a lot of ways. It's a credit to Coach Prince for they don't ever really seem overly frustrated. You know, they play hard. They continue to get behind each other play after play. There's not a whole lot of outward frustration, and it's good to see that from a team like this.
DeJesus sets it up. That touched the ground for Elizabeth Phillips. The Wildcats not really rotating as much as I thought they might have in this third set. We saw Chloe Conover for a couple of points. We saw Jasmine Moore for a couple of points, but right now it's back to the starting 7 on the floor. Just trying to close this one out. Standing hit from Wardlaw. Here's Spencer, goes with the touch shot. Finds a bare spot of ground.
Yeah, Melina Spencer's an interesting player to watch. She has such kind of a low-key delivery on the court, especially when you have players like Kaytal Price or Mia Delahousse who are so fiery in front of the net. She's kind of low-key, but when she gets a hold of a ball, obviously that's not an example. She's using finesse there to kind of flip it over the net, but she gets a hold of some balls and puts a fire into them.
Now, something we do not track is number of serves made. I want to know how many serves Janlene DeJesus has had in this match.
Especially into the whole weekend.
Because it seems like every time BCU goes on a big run, it's number 2 at the line. Wardlaw first contact. It'll go to the middle. Solomon out of the back row. Nice dig by Poston. DeJesus setting up Spencer. And Wildcats will get that point off the double touch. That's not a stat we track, number of serves.
You'd have to kind of go back through the play-by-play and count them up manually.
Well, maybe I'll do that this afternoon.
We'll get our stats department on that as soon as I find them.
The stats department of the 2 people sitting here and Harv, who's statting the game right now. Solomon, big swing, off the ceiling, kept alive, quick reactions by Poston, but couldn't direct it into the court.
Another one that just came back down so quickly. There's hard to find a reaction time to figure out what to do with that ball.
And whenever it hits the middle of the kind of radius of beams there, right off it almost looks like a dinner plate sitting up there.
Yep.
It just comes back down so fast. Nice block by Alcorn that time. 17-5, our score in set number 3. Carswell to the middle, and it's out. Nice job letting that one go by Essence Bell.
24th error of the day from Alcorn. Only 7 for BCU.
Hitting negative for the 3rd straight match. Not by a lot, but they do have more errors than kills. Pulu touched it down, and finally the scoring run for BCU is broken. I'm going back to the game that BCU had earlier this year at Moore Gymnasium against Mississippi Valley State to see what those set scores were. 25-13, 25-12, 25-11. Oh, down on the floor is Price after taking a big shot off that swing by Elizabeth Phillips. And she is slow to get up. So the first set here in this match, which was won by Bethune-Cookman 25-9, was their most dominant set of the season. And a team rounding into form at the right time as Melina Spencer punishes the overpass. 5 points away from sending us all home here, Bethune-Cookman. Michaela Wardlaw does lead the match in kills with 8. It's been a team effort from Bethune-Cookman. Delahousse was 6, Phillips was 6, Spencer and Moore both with 4. Serve goes long from Elizabeth Phillips.
You know, we haven't seen Delahousse since she kind of got banged up a little earlier in the match. She's sitting down there at the end of the Wildcats bench. She was walking around. She went back and forth from the locker room a handful of times. Doesn't seem hobbled at all as she stands up now to join the end of the BCU
Maybe
cheer squad down there at the end of the bench.
Just being precautious, right? You don't want to aggravate something here in a match that looks pretty much done and dusted. That one had to go over from DeJesus. Again, overpass. Hunted down by Jasmine Moore.
Feels like there's been at least half a dozen, if not more, of those today that the Wildcats have just left no doubt.
Well, even if Delahousse does not come back in the match, he hits 600, 6 out of 10, no errors, all in that first set. And an ace as the Wildcats race towards the finishing line here. Another one from Elizabeth Phillips. No, correction, that's Alicia Callender at the line. Callender, of course. Another ace! 2 in a row. The calendar says it's ace time.
I respect the cheesy joke there. No, but that's just one we talked about earlier, kind of Alcorn. There's this back and forth where they want to let it go in the hopes that they can kind of break off these Wildcat runs, but the Wildcats have kept them so honest by picking those corners, these really tough shots. But that's a credit to BCU for finding those lanes and pounding it in there.
Well, Alicia Callender has serving pedigree in the family. Back in 2014, her sister Hazel Ortiz played for BCU and led the MEAC in service aces.
And she's such a presence offensively. I mean, we know how important a setter is in the whole flow of the game for the Wildcats. She's one that is just always so in control of everything when she's on the court. Not only when she's serving the ball, but anywhere. She's a calming presence. The offense runs so much clearer and quicker when she's at the helm. She's got a great ability to get some on her own with those quick touches over the net, those attacks. We've seen her rack up a handful of kills. She's an all-SWAC performer for a reason and figures to be right there again towards the end of the year.
And she did it last year, too. 3rd in the SWAC in assists. This year leading the team in assists with almost 5%. And in a 2-setter system that the Wildcats like to run, try to do that exact same shot where she just drops into the middle. Didn't clear the net that time, and Alcorn State will side out. But in this 2-setter system that the Wildcats like to run, if you are top of the conference, even while sharing time with somebody else, that's an immense credit to your talent. Wildcats set point now after the pipe attack. It'll be the freshman Sydney Poston from Chicago, Illinois, to try and close this one out for BCU. And she can't do it that time. Now the Wildcats are really just hunting those corners, trying to finish it off in style. Up 24-8, you can kind of forgive it a little bit. I know Coach Williams won't, but we can.
It would have been a fitting end to the contest, kind of the way this one has gone, for that one to sneak a corner, but the Wildcats will have to work for it.
Overpass from BCU, and they're in the net.
You know, we talk so much about Niara Hightower today with, I believe it's 7, maybe 6 blocks today. She's jumping up into that Wildcats record book. Only a couple shy of passing Aaliyah Dowse's 2021 season for 9th on the all-time list.
Wildcats trying to close this one out. Big swing from Phillips, fought off by Alcorn State. Back row attack from Solomon is wide, and this one belongs to the maroon and gold. It's a weekend sweep. They only drop 1 set across 3 matches. Great weekend for the Wildcats overall.
A desperately needed weekend for team morale, for obviously that standing list that we talk so much about today, but for the program in general. I mean, it's been a back and forth season in a lot of different ways, but it's so great to see the Wildcats really get their big chance in front of a home crowd to have this kind of performance and to do it in a way that's been pure domination from start to finish.
Here are some statistics from today's game. BCU outkilled Alcorn 36-19, only had 7 errors in the whole match, hit .337 as a team, held Alcorn State to a -57. The Braves hit negative in all 3 of their matches this weekend. 31 assists for the Wildcats, 7 service aces, only 5 errors, 11 blocks in a 3-set match, which is insane.
And, you know, Mike, as we kind of wrap it up here for this home season for us here on the CatEye Network for BCU Volleyball in 2023, especially after this weekend, I want to make sure we get a good opportunity to kind of credit all the work that goes into a tournament like this, to a cluster like this. There's so many people that make this happen, whether it's on our end. We appreciate your help, of course, running everything all weekend from a broadcast perspective. We've got Brian Harvey running stats all weekend for a ton of games. We've got our table crew that's doing the book just so diligently. We don't hear complaints. Obviously, Coach Brittany Williams running everything from a hospitality standpoint, keeping everything moving from a scheduling, making sure people are in the right place, right time. There's so many people that come together to make something like this work. and we're so appreciative of all the work that goes into making
we,
it happen.
we did get a little lucky this week. Only one match went to 5 sets. We were on schedule, a lot of 3-set matches, and I think this cluster really proved that the top of the East, BCU, Alabama State, Florida A&M, really dominates those Western teams coming over.
Yeah, and it's something we've seen sport to sport. We've talked about it countless times, so I don't want to rehash kind of what we've gone over throughout baseball season, even football, that whole conversation. But absolutely right, the East has kind of showcased that they're the ones to beat, that there's teams at the top that are noticeably better than some of the ones even out west. But these clusters are a great way to kind of showcase that. In a lot of ways, it's a way to kind of cut down on travel and to make things easier for teams, come in, play a bunch of games in one spot, keep the schedule to X amount of games per week, knock those numbers down. But we also see it's a great time, of course, seeing all the teams come in and out, interact, seeing a bunch of new faces, some great fan bases traveling here. But it's a good showcase of the parity in the league, or maybe the lack of it at the top. It's been a fun weekend.
Some individual statistics for Alcorn State. Solomon led all scorers with 8 kills on 10 attacks, 37 attacks, 10 errors, still hitting the negative, unfortunately. Wardlaw had 5 kills. Pulu had 3. Pulu also had 9 assists. Williams had 7. Only person with more than 1 block was Hamby with 2. For the Wildcats, this might take me a bit of time to get through. 7 kills for Elizabeth Phillips, 6 for Della Hussein in only 1 set, mind you, that she played. Moore with 6, Spencer with 5, and Elizabeth Phillips with 7 kills for her. Phillips hit 300. Della Hussein hit 600. Moore hit 857, 6 kills on 7 swings. That's insane.
Yeah, Jasmine Moore in the past, I'd have to bring up the record book again, but she's turned in a couple of some of the top performances like that, qualifying ones, hitting the ball so efficiently. It's a great afternoon for her. Good to see her have some success.
Hightower defensively led the team again. 6 blocks for her. Conover had 3. Spencer had 2. Essence Bell, 16 digs. Jenlene DeJesus, 9 digs, second on the team, and pretty much all 9 of them were spectacular. Wildcats had 7 aces. Phillips had 3. Callender had 2. DeJesus had 1. That'll do it. Once again, your final score. The Wildcats sweep aside the Alcorn State Braves 3-0 here at Moore Gymnasium. For our entire CatEye Network crew, Director Eugene Robinson, SID's Brian Harvey and Bryce Wojnowski, and myself, Michael Twittle. Bryce Wojnowski joining me in the booth for this one. Thank you for watching BCU Volleyball all season long. Thank you for tuning in all weekend long to this SWAC cluster on the CatEye Network. We will see you on Thursday for BCU football against Mississippi Valley State. Have a very pleasant rest of your afternoon.